Great. Hey everybody!
Hey!
Welcome to #PastorBesties. I'm Nicole.
I'm Melissa.
And we have our special guest.
Yes! We're excited. Can we call this a series now?
Yes.
Does two make a series?
I think so.
Absolutely. Well, we're welcome back to our series on Conversations with the Bishop. We have Bishop Sally Dick with us, who's the resident bishop in the Northern Illinois Conference. We're glad that you're here to talk with us again and share some of your inspiring thoughts with us. Today, what time, I don't know. Today, we're going to talk about leadership.
Woo! Yes.
So, let's get ready.
Let's do it. Bishop, who do you feel like encouraged you early on in your life to even think about leadership or to tell you that you could be a leader, or maybe you just felt it within you? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I really think my youth group did, because we didn't have any paid youth group leaders.
Mm-hmm.
We did everything. We planned retreats. We had this new campground that our churches in our area had purchased, and so we were bound and determined as the youth we were going to use it every amazing time we could. And so we planned everything from the grilled cheese to the program, and and everybody just produced, and they still do to this day, those who still go to that church, which are a number of them. And I think it was just you can do this, go ahead and do it, and kind of this sense of adventure that was a part of it as well. So I think it was just sort of, if you're going to do anything, you better just do it. And everybody sort
And the
of
church
stepped to the plate.
empowered you to do that. That's amazing.
And they were almost always pleased about it.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few little episodes, but it's to be expected.
Yeah.
But by and large, we made it happen. Nobody else is going to make it happen for us.
Mm-hmm.
That's an amazing gift that a church gave you, and I wish that more churches gave that gift to their youth, to let them know that, hey, you don't have to, you're not the church of tomorrow, but you're the church of now.
That's true. I never thought about it in that context, but that was really true. We were the church.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I had a similar experience too. I started teaching Sunday school when I was in 8th grade. And that was mostly because my mom didn't want me in my Sunday school class anymore, because all we were doing was playing games.
Uh-huh.
So the logical next step is you should start teaching Sunday school.
I started teaching Sunday school as a freshman in high school. I came back over the summer and taught the high school class. I had been out a year, but...
Yeah, same. I had started, when I was my first year in college, I started working with youth group. I was in charge of these high school students that I was just in high school with.
Right.
And who learns more?
Right. Yeah. I don't know if I would be given that opportunity. If I had not been given that opportunity, I would not be here today.
Wow.
That's interesting. You had that experience too?
Mm-hmm, I did. And I started being a youth pastor when I was a sophomore in college. So I was, had this group of like 5 youth. They were young high schoolers, so I was like 5 years older than them, but that's not that much older. But that youth group grew. I think it grew to like 25 in the couple of years that I was there. And not because of me, but I think just because, they felt like I was one of them, and they, it was just easier.
It was kind of the spirit of it.
Yeah. And they led the studies too, and we did it together. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's amazing.
Interesting in terms of getting started in leadership.
Right.
So when you think about leadership, that's a huge topic. When you're talking leadership, we're talking a lot of things. So is there something in terms of leadership that you would say, when I think of leadership, that's my favorite thing, that I like this part of being in leadership or being a leader?
Well, I think what leadership is kind of what I was saying before, is making something happen. Mm-hmm. That's also what power is. Mm-hmm. Power is simply making something happen. Mm-hmm. And I like to see things happen. So I like to be in there helping to make things happen. Mm-hmm. It doesn't always have to be me at the front,
Right.
because I really do believe everybody brings what they have to the whole thing. I always say I'm just not smart enough to do it by myself, you know. Well, the
But who
truth of the
is?
matter is nobody is.
Right.
But, you know, when you really get everybody else involved in figuring something out, you usually have a better product, so to speak. And I like that process. I like the collaboration of it. And sometimes I'm out front doing something, and sometimes I'm from behind supporting. That doesn't matter to me quite as much as just making sure stuff's happening.
Yeah.
What's your least favorite part of leadership?
You know, I think it's like every other clergy person probably, which is, you know, when the supposed obstacles are so petty. You know, it's the old broken
Yeah.
shoelace that puts you over the edge into insanity.
Yeah.
You know, of ministry. It's when, you know, we do not need to fight about this. This
Right.
is not worth our time.
Right.
This is not worth 2 more words. This is not worth the aggravation. And, you know, unfortunately, I think a lot of people, that's why they withdraw from leadership in a local church, laity. I'm talking, it's like, I don't need to be breaking my shoelace all the time.
Right.
Because they too want to see things happen.
Right.
And how, you know, we all struggle with how to keep the pettiness. And, you know, there are plenty of big obstacles out there.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but you can meet them when you have good collaboration and people working together and wanting something to happen. You can meet your mountains that way.
Right.
But it's those little things that just do you in. I mean, that's the part that,
It's like death by paper cuts.
yeah. Exactly.
The first time I ever heard that talked about, I was like, that is so true. Death by paper cuts. It's brilliant.
That'd be very painful.
It
It would be.
would be awful. Oh my.
I think the collaboration part is really important for me because I can come up with really bad ideas all by myself. And I just did this week. Thank you. Where were you when I was coming up with this idea? So I was trying to figure out what we do with our kickoff Sunday. I was like, we do a church picnic, but we should do something else. Like we should have a theme that goes along with it. We've done Sunday Fun Day. We've done, we did a dessert potluck last year. So I was like, we need to do something. So I was like, let's do something on a stick. Like we'll do corn dogs, we'll do chicken kebabs. That'll be our food. We'll do popsicles and cake pops. And then we'll do games. I was like, I just need a title. So I sent it out to a few people. I was like, what title? And they're like, we can't come up with anything but stuff that's inappropriate. I was like, where were you? Thank goodness we didn't send out invitations to something to be like,
This is inappropriate.
yeah. So, but I was like, yes, this is amazing. So as soon as people...
That would have
know
gone
about
out
it-
really big in Minnesota, I'm just saying.
Oh, that's true, at the
Yeah.
fair. That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
they would have loved that.
Yeah.
Communion on a stick, even.
Oh,
I don't know how you do it, but...
I don't know.
Hey, it would take the germs away. So you wouldn't touch the bread.
Oh, that's a good idea. I don't know. Maybe that's how it happened to you.
Maybe.
It's sort of like the...
Intinction.
Yeah, with a stick.
Body of Christ.
I forget, but you can
On a
ask any
stick.
Minnesotan. I'm sure they know.
If you're from Minnesota, tell us.
Yes. Let
Oh.
us know.
I forgot. Let's be on this room.
That's the joy of Pastor Besties. You forget that you're on camera.
Whoopsies. But yeah, so it was bringing in people along with me that it was like, no, this is probably not the best idea. Maybe just call it a church picnic and be
Right.
done. So, yeah, because I was not smart enough to come up with that on my own.
No. But none of us are. That's the thing.
But you were
We need to
trying.
be
I
a
was trying.
community.
Right.
Community is so
Right.
important. Body of Christ. We are the body of Christ. That's why. So we can weed out each other's bad ideas.
Well, and sometimes those bad ideas become good ideas when
That's
you
right.
spitball them around with each other. But all of a
Absolutely.
sudden it's not so crazy.
It generates something else.
Corn dogs are not a bad idea.
No, they are not.
So you'll figure it out.
Thank you. In the church, we have talked on Pastor Besties, being in leadership, we have lots of different roles, lots of different titles,
Right.
lots of different things that we're called. What titles do you prefer to be called?
Because people call you a lot of things, whether you know or not. So we were just curious what you care to be called.
You know, people call me Bishop Sally, or, you know. I mean, that's fine.
Okay.
Most of my ministry I went as Reverend Sally.
Yeah, I don't know sometimes. I mean, for me personally, like what I want to be called, because there's part of me that's like, Pastor Melissa is the appropriate title. And then there's part that I have a hard time answering to that sometimes. I mean, I've told the story before, like I had someone who called once who was like, I'd like to talk to Reverend Myers. And I was like, there's nobody here by that name. Oh, that's me.
Whoopsies.
I forgot. So, I mean.
That instilled a lot of confidence. Probably.
Yeah.
Caller was probably like, wait a second.
But I think especially being younger in ministry, there's times when those titles, they mean something for leadership, but then your actions mean more for leadership. Does that make sense?
And, I remember very well, I think it was the first Sunday I was in a local church, and I think the first question somebody asked me is, what do you want us to call you? And I had given no thought to this. None. Zip. And what came out was what I answered to for the next 25 years. I mean,
Right.
and, I wasn't in Lutherland like Illinois or Minnesota, so Reverend Sally as opposed to Pastor Sally. And, because frankly, you're all a little, influenced that way.
That's probably true.
That's just what rolled. But I had this one little kid. It was so funny. He didn't quite get the Reverend part. He thought it was River. So he was forever calling me River Sally. And he would call me River Sally, and his mother was like, why does he do this? And I go, well, it's just what he's hearing. I mean, he doesn't know this word, Reverend. So he would always call me River Sally. I thought,
That's adorable.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you were called bishop, and how did that feel to you?
I don't remember the first time I was called bishop, actually, but I kept calling, Tracy Malone, who was just elected, I kept calling her Bishop Malone for the first day or two. That's over now. And so, I don't remember that, but you do kind of, so when you're with a bunch of other bishops, I mean, all of us turn, because people go, Bishop, and we're like, is that us?
Which one?
What do you mean?
It's like at the playground.
It's like,
somebody yells,
Mom.
Everybody's like, what?
Yeah, it's exactly the same way.
Right.
Mom. And, you get used to it after a while.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
I think it would, to me, that would be would feel really authoritative. Like if somebody, to be given the title of bishop after you're consecrated, I would, mind-boggling to me. I can't imagine that. So I think that.
Although it's not the most authoritative title I've ever had.
Oh, what is that?
Yeah. So when I was relatively new in ministry, maybe I was about 5 years in, the Bishop James S. Thomas, who was just this statesman of a bishop, he called me the little general.
Oh.
So I think that sounds far more
That
authoritative.
That
does.
That sounds intense.
That does sound a little intense. I love that, though.
I had organized something, and he said, we will follow what the little general says.
All right.
But of course, always the little part.
Right, yes. Well, that kind of leads us to our next question, the least favorite title, because we've talked a lot on here about being little lady pastors. It's just sometimes how we're addressed. So, have you had experiences like that? I mean, little general, that's...
It's sort of, it's quasi.
Yeah, it's right there.
Part of it not.
Yes.
Anyway, only he did. I have to say, this past Sunday, there was somebody who wasn't United Methodist and was involved in some music. And let's just say they were from the part of the country that's way south of here. And he, let's just say, was probably far more conservative than maybe the three of us might be.
We're picking up what you're putting down. Yeah.
And he's very nice. They did lovely music. But several times he called me honey.
What? No.
And I have to say, that was a little offensive to me. Like I've told people not that I'm not their sweetheart or honey in the past, you know, in other times of my life.
Did
but
you tell him that's Bishop, honey?
yeah, I didn't. I knew I'd never see him again.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
not
it just, I think he calls everybody that, you know, or at least all, I don't know, women.
All women.
So, you know, you weren't going to change him any, he wasn't meaning to be. What felt somewhat disrespectful, I have to say.
right.
Right.
But what's the point?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, sometimes you have to pick your battles. I mean, there are times when I'm called kiddo.
Yeah.
And
or sweetie.
Yeah.
I was once called sweet cheeks. So I was like, I don't even know what that means.
I don't even,
Like,
I
no.
can't.
But I mean, there's times when I know that I'm called kiddo, that it's meant as an affectionate, and it's not meant to be offensive or like it's.
I think that's borderline offensive, though.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, hey kid,
It's
I get that one a lot.
dismissive.
Hey,
It
kid.
is.
It's
That's
dismissive.
true. That's true.
I don't like that.
I personally haven't taken offense to it. I can see,
And perhaps in relationship, you know that people respect you,
Right,
like you.
right.
This is a more of a affectionate thing, but
Right.
it's dismissive. I think that's one of the things that happens that does concern me about clergy who are younger than 57. Is
Guilty.
same too.
is like, oh yeah, we need younger clergy. But if you're
Right.
dismissive of them all the time,
Right.
then you're not going to have younger clergy.
Well, it's hard to feel like, you know, you've just preached your heart out and then they're like, hey kid, good sermon. And you're like, really? Was it though? Like, did you hear anything I said? You just called me kid.
Yeah.
I'm your pastor.
You look cute
Yeah.
in the pulpit today.
Wow. I had an 80-year-old man like a couple weeks ago compliment my makeup,
Oh.
which was just kind of awkward anyway, but I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm your pastor,
Yeah.
80-year-old man. It was, I mean,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
I worked
Yeah.
hard on
Yeah.
it. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, how do you feel like all of these sorts of things affect your leadership, or do they affect your leadership? Do they affect your authority? I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it reveals a lot about people when they choose the dismissive. I mean, so far I don't know that we've mentioned anything that I wouldn't put in the category of dismissive, but isn't that kind of it? So what's the deal on wanting to dismiss clergy leadership? I won't even say authority. I'll just say leadership. Or, you know, ability to proclaim the gospel or provide pastoral care or run a church or a fundraiser, right? You know, why dismiss it? Or is it a matter that they don't know how to demonstrate their affection for their pastor?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so in responding, I mean, if you were really in relationship with somebody, I wasn't in relationship with this guy from Sunday, but if you're really in relationship, then, you know, really to kind of think about what's behind it so that you can maybe help develop pathways. Or maybe sometimes it's like, sweetie, really? Honey,
Yeah.
really?
Don't call me that.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the other thing is, I don't think laity hear us talk about this.
I
think that's true.
That's true.
Like we do a transition workshop, and in the course of it, I think a number of us kind of tell some of our stories. And I sometimes just sort of look at the laity going, oh my God, I probably said something like that. And I don't think they really get the feedback. I mean, because sometimes to give it back directly is just, that's not going to help your case any.
Yeah.
But I don't think laity always hear the things that do hurt us.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because
Fair enough then.
Yeah.
But part of that is our fault because we are like, oh, thank you. You know, we covered up and we don't say, please don't call me that.
Right.
You know, part of that's on us.
And so how do we do that so
Right.
that they don't lose face.
Right, right. Well, I think some of it's about your vulnerability also. I mean, and I think that there's something within leadership that's told you don't show vulnerability. Like, don't show weakness. And vulnerability is weakness. But I don't think that's always true. I think it's a matter of how you show vulnerability without bleeding all over everybody.
Right.
Right. You know, I was just at a leadership training, and so much of what they taught about was being a vulnerable leader. And so I think it's sort of swinging back. Like, I think we've been told so long, don't be vulnerable, and then they see, like, that's really awful for everybody, especially people on your staff. And so now it's like swinging back, like, oh, well, maybe we should be really vulnerable. And it's
I
probably
think there's kind of a
middle ground.
happy medium.
Yeah. There's always a third way.
Yeah.
Right.
Another topic that we could talk about forever. I mean, there's so many aspects to leadership, so many pieces, parts about leadership. Are there any final thoughts that you have on leadership at all?
Well, I mean, I think people should really kind of develop their own sense of it. You know, I think sort of another buzzword in leadership these days is relational leadership. That's what women been doing forever, you know? And so, you know, maybe we didn't always claim what our strength was in terms of developing relationships. But then how do you lead without being too empathetic? Empathy's good.
Yes.
But, you know, that's when you begin to take on everybody else's cause,
Right.
To the point where nothing gets done. And so then that's more of our vulnerable place of not really doing the best that we can. But I think all of that to say is, like, we need to trust our way of doing it. And that's hard when you see so many other models out there, even when you hate them. You go like, well, I don't do it that way.
Right.
Well, maybe I should. Well, I don't think that's working so well for them anyway.
Right.
Right.
Well,
So do people have these conversations? I do. In my head.
Yeah.
I mean, being on a staff with 3 clergy who all lead very differently, I definitely have those conversations in my head. Yeah.
And so you go, I would never do it that way. But I really like the way he does this.
Right.
Right.
Or I
I'm gonna learn
could
from
never do it that way. Like, I don't feel like I could pull that off, but I wish I could, or I wish, you know, how can
But
I
if I
learn
did, I
from
would just
that?
look silly.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
yes.
And
Yeah.
so it really is kind of, you know, it really gets back to that well-used word these days. It's being authentic to who we are.
Right.
And so you do look, you say, I wonder how I could do that. And then you go, that's just not me.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah, I think my rallying cry for everyone is you do you. I mean, you have to do you because no one else does it better.
It's hard enough being me, much less trying to be somebody else.
Right. It's too exhausting to try and be someone
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
Absolutely. Good words.
So share your thoughts on leadership using the hashtag PastorBesties.
Like and to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yes. And thank you so much for being with us
Yes,
again.
Thank you, Bishop.
My pleasure. Great, thanks.
So as you go forward to do whatever it is that you do, as you are in your workplaces, in your churches, in any area of ministry that you're a part of, may you take your authority, the authority that's been given to you, may you do you, and may you be the leader that God has called you to be.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.